Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another video. So, in today's video, we are going to talk about a project of mine that I made entirely using AI. Like every line of code was written by an agent, and the model I used was DeepSeek V4 Flash. Now, I personally like this model very much, but when it comes to projects that I made entirely using AI, like every single thing of those projects that are written by model or like a AI agent, I had my speculations, right? And this recent experience of mine just proved me right. So I will dive into details of what uh, problems I faced and why I don't recommend making projects entirely using AI, right? Because see, the biggest problem, I will not explain it. I'll just give you a more like a headline. The biggest problem for me when it comes to making projects entirely using AI is I have no clue of how that agent implemented that particular code, logic. Because when you give an agent full control of like your entire code base, you are basically throwing you out yourself out of the loop, right? And I am a believer of being the main orchestrator. Like humans should always stay in the loop. Like they should be the ones who are controlling the actions that are being taken by any model, right? So enough talking now. Let me show you the project I made, and then I will show you the chat, and the issues I faced, right? So so this is the project. This is a resume builder. Let me zoom in. It is a very generic one, right? And there are different themes here. This is the compact one, this is a terminal, minimal, modern, executive, creative, timeline, and column. So templates are good, right? But if I were to deploy the first iteration, like the first version that came out of the model, then it was a fucking disaster. And let me show you the chats with the agent. Uh, um, bypass. Yeah. So now I am very much into web development. Okay, so I always try to break some public sites. I always try to secure my site. So I have an idea of how this entire system works, how the client and server architecture really matter, and how you should always put the crucial logic on the server. Like I know these things. So and I was always had these speculations about AI generated code, like they are not secure. And when I asked you to do a deep code analysis and figure out any potential loopholes which can lead to free generation, and by the way, each generation should cost rupees 10. This was a constraint I put because I wanted to test how well the model can protect the endpoints, because I do not want anyone to generate free stuff. At this scale, rupees 10 doesn't matter that much, right? But if you were to use it in a proper code base where the amount is quite large, like rupees 1000 or maybe 10,000, then it would matter, right? So I wanted to have a slightly less intensive version, so I just asked it to make it so that every generation, like if I had all the details, let me fill in the details, fake filler and filler inputs, then it would open a interface, and I will have to pay rupees 10, right? So this was a constraint I genuinely, not genuinely, but deliberately kept, because I wanted to see how well the model performs with these constraints, right? So it did all the coding stuff, right? And then I asked it to do a deep code analysis and figure out any potential loopholes which can lead to free generation. Now, the entire payment can be bypassed. Payment verification does nothing. As you can see, the front end was just calling the verify endpoint, verify payment endpoint, and that's all. It's not even handling the errors, it's doing literally nothing. As it said, fire and forget. and then the rate call a callback can be fake, no rate limiting on API create order, no server side session tracking, the after payment obviously render safety rate is exploitable. Like there were so many different issues that if I didn't run this command, like I already knew that there were these issues because I have made a couple of projects and know how these things work. So I knew these issues will exist. But if you are not doing these analysis, if you're not, you know, if you're not aware about the things that can actually break your application, then it's literally, a disaster waiting to happen. You are just one nerd away opening the DevTools and studying all the network calls, and maybe someone opening MITM proxy, or maybe someone opening what do you call it, burp suit, and your entire site is gone. I mean, they will not hijack your site, but the entire logic, the entire backend will be gone forever. Like they can easily exploit it. So the number of issues that this site had by default were like exponentially large. So if I had to summarize everything, so let's say this is the agent, right? Let me make it thick. So this is the agent. So whenever I give it some task, let's say task 1. Now the thing with agents is they do not perform everything in what do you call it, one step. They call multiple tool calls. They do multiple tool calls, right? Tool call 1, and similarly they will do second tool call, then third and fourth, right? So 5, 4, 3, 2. Now when you give a task to an agent, so what it's trying to do is complete it. The main target that it has is to complete the task given by the user. So oftentimes what happens is it just skips the steps that are crucial, not from a completion point of view, but from a security point of view. I mean, if you don't implement the security things, it will not affect the functionality of the site. It's just a risk vector that can allow someone else to exploit the site. So it will not directly affect the functionality, right? And the model tends to do that only. When you ask it to make something, for example, make a website, then it will try its best to make the website and potentially ignore all of the good practices, all of the good conventions, like the server side logic, client side logic, authentication. It will not take them seriously and will just try to focus on implementing the main logic of the app. Here, the initial version had, like, it did render the PDFs properly, like it worked properly, but the entire payment flow could be bypassed. So there is no benefit, right? And this is something that we as developers also take for granted, because ultimately these models were trained on human data, like code bases that were already existing on GitHub, GitLab, Codework, like all these platforms. And the production code base were good, but good production code base are quite rare as compared to normal projects made by us developers. And we tend to prefer features we tend to prefer shipping features more as compared to polishing one project more. So I believe this happens because of what it was trained on. It saw these large training data where there were not enough security logics, so it just learned that pattern. And that's what the issue with current code generation using AI is. If you're not in the loop, then it's gonna complete the target. It will give you a website that looks good, that functions properly. But if you look under the hood, the glue code it used will not stay for long. It will not keep everything together for very long, right? So, and here comes the second point. If you make entire projects using AI, then you are throwing yourself out of the loop. Now, why I'm saying this is because for example, if I were to open the code base on my own, let me. Okay, so this is the control VC. Why the fuck team was oh yeah here CD resume ls admin. So this is the code base. It has a Go backend, right? As you can see here, and it has the front end using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Now, if I were to make any changes, then it would take me a long time to understand this code base. I could understand this Go backend very easily because it's not that complex. But if I were to add something into the UI, then for me it's literally impossible because I cannot go through all this HTML and be like, okay, this maps to this class and this applies to that. I cannot do that because I didn't write any of this on my own. I don't have that awareness, I don't have that context of what maps to what. So I cannot make any changes to this code base on my own. If I try to, I will break something and it will just end up taking a huge amount of time. I mean, this is 678 lines of HTML. Let me check the CSS. It's 560. I cannot edit this file on my own because I have no idea what maps to what, right? So if I want to make any changes to this code base, I will have to rely on AI again. So I have completely thrown myself out of the loop, which will result in always praying that the output of the code base matches to what I want. So if I want to add a feature right now, I will prompt the agent, it will do it. But whether it will do what I exactly ask it to, whether it will do it in a secure manner, whether it will do it in a way that is well coded and not exploitable, that's entirely left to the luck. We have no control over that, and that's why at the beginning I said I always had speculations about one-shotting projects using AI. I mean, they are the most intelligent things that we have ever made because they possess so much knowledge in literally every domain that is literally impossible for an average human being to do. But when it comes to, but we cannot replicate, they are not able to replicate human brain, because if I am working on a particular code base, for example, let me open a code base I wrote on my own, cd immortal and so this is the immortal agent that I used to make this entire what do you call it app. So this agent was made by me only. So I literally know what each line of the code means and how it maps to the rest of the code base. You can ask me anything, I can explain you in detail how everything works. And because I am the one who designed the entire system, I was the one who mapped the requirements, I was the one who designed the system, I was the one who actually implemented it, I tested it manually and then I deployed it. So I know what happens. So I can easily edit, if you ask me something, tell me something going wrong, I will surely have an idea, okay, this if this is going wrong, then this must be the culprit. I can almost guarantee you that I can find out the issue without having much trouble, right? So in a code base like this, if you use AI, then it's not that big of a problem because you already have a good enough code base, and if you have a good enough code base, then AI will learn from your patterns. AI will try not to lean too much away from the baseline, and the baseline here is your code base, the code that you have written. So if you have a good enough code base, a good enough understanding of what you have made, then you can use AI for adding new features because it will try to copy the patterns that you already have. So you can expect it to use the test suits you have, you can expect it to use the same syntax or the same conventions you use, and that's fine. I'm not against that. But if you're making something entirely using AI, then it's not a really good approach. Like, I'm not saying that it's bad or something, but for me, I would never do that. Although this project is live and it works, it took me a lot of time to, I even had to manually clone the repo on my machine and then edit something and then push the changes and test it. I also had to put in some amount of time, and then only it was able to reach the final stage. And I'm not sure whether it's fully safe or not because I only edited those parts which I found to be troubling, or if I want, like, I this save detail feature was mine. So I only edited those things which I wanted, or more like which I could see that it's going wrong. But even on the local environment, I had to rely on AI because I had no clue of what this code base really means, because I don't know what maps to what. It might be a skill issue on my end. I will be glad to accept that, but I believe it's not. I mean, even if it's a mixture of skill issues plus AI being like AI workflow not being that good, I am glad to accept that. But the point I am trying to make here is making projects entirely using AI will not get you that far. So yeah, that's all for today's video. If you want to check this out, you can always visit on resumeforce.sfx.in. I'm not trying to advertise it, right? You can just see the default templates, and each generation only costs rupees 10, so it's not that much. And do tell me about the templates. What do you think about them? I mean, most of them will not be, are not used in the industry. So, for example, this one can be used. This one cannot be used because, well, it's way too cartoony. This one definitely cannot be used. This one can be used. It is quite, you know, luxurious in a way. This one, no. This one can be used. This is just for the memes, and this one can also be used. So yeah, there are almost like 4 templates that can actually be used. So do tell me about the templates, what you think about them. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you for listening to my yapping. And if you have something to share, if you think I am wrong at something, like, please do comment down, and we'll meet in the next one. Bye bye.